That was beautiful as always. Long-time sun be upon you. Beautiful song. This morning I'm talking about curiosity. It's a doorway to wisdom and understanding, and actually isn't that what we want to achieve? Wisdom and understanding. I had so many ways of approaching this topic this week that I confused myself with all the different ways to do it. I had created so many different slides and visuals that I finally had to just say, okay, Judy, stop it, stop. Sometimes I can be a little too curious or a little too creative when I'm doing this. But let's talk about curiosity, and I think it's a superpower. I think it's a divine trait that we've been given. I think it's a gift. And I told you about my curiosity and wanting to experience the train ride. It was just something I wanted to do. My husband was out of town. I felt like when we got to New Orleans, he would probably want to spend the whole day at the World War II Museum anyway, and I would probably want to go someplace else. So it was just as well that I went by myself. One of the reasons I do things like that by myself is to, one is curiosity. I want to know what it feels like. I told Alice that was one of the reasons I took the transatlantic cruise a couple of years ago, was because I wanted to know what it felt like to go from one time zone to another. I was curious. I was really curious. I had flown to Europe several times, but I wanted to know what it felt like to go slowly across those time zones instead of just flung across them, which is what happens. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. I enjoyed every moment of it. Then one of the perks that comes from my doing things like that, I went to a couple of years before that, I went to Portugal by myself. And I find that when I do this is that it builds my confidence, if that makes sense, okay? I grew up the youngest child of 6, and I was the baby, and everybody took care of me. And that's the way it was during my early life. I've probably told you too, at least 3 or 4 times, that I was my mother's baby and my dad's baby, and that's just the way I felt about it too. And my sister Linda was a year older than me, so she was just so much more grown up than I was. And so when she was going into 1st grade and I was going into kindergarten, I was okay until she let loose of my hand. And I had to go into the classroom by myself. And I cried for at least half of the year. I cried every morning. So being that way, and I really have needed to force myself a lot of my lifetime through curiosity, and then just force myself to do something. I may not be confident about it when I set out, but it always builds that in the confidence when I will take the courage to go on and follow the curiosity in my life. Can you think of where we'd be if humans did not have the trait of curiosity? Any thoughts about that? Any thoughts about that? Yeah. We'd be still sitting around a campfire, wouldn't we? Well, and it's true. We think of, oh my goodness, all the people whether they were in the field of medicine or exploration or theology whatever it was, we're so thankful for them. Galileo, think of that. Madame Curie, Pasteur, Gandhi, in his own way, curious. So many names. I don't know that I could name them all. Amelia Earhart, thankful for her contribution. Leonardo da Vinci, Plato, William Shakespeare, Mary Shelley, Alexander Graham Bell, and so many others, Pascal. We're thankful for the explorers, Columbus, and all of those others that we have all these statues of around. And we're thankful for all of that. We're thankful for this human trait of curiosity. What are some of the things that held us back? In the generation when I was growing up, you might easily have been told, don't question, don't ask anything, just do what I tell you. Anybody else grow up with that type attitude? We weren't encouraged. In my husband's family, they were encouraged to be curious. And they were encouraged to go out and find new ways of doing things, go out on your own. Whatever it was, I remember, I was just amazed at my husband's family and how they were encouraged to do those things. My parents were not college educated, therefore they didn't know, and so they had some limitations upon them, so they certainly didn't encourage us to go to college because they didn't know how we were going to do that. They had absolutely no idea. What they encouraged us to do was to work hard and save our money. And that's good advice too, right? That's real good advice. I have to remind my husband of that one sometimes, so we make a good pair. I watch his money and keep him from spending it all. We make a really good pair. But curiosity is a good thing. It's a really good thing. I was wondering too what, and it's not rebellion as the slide says, it's a reverence for life. I was curious too what Jesus might have said about curiosity. He modeled it. And if you'll remember some of the parables and some of the things he said, you'll remember that he would not always answer a question. He would answer a question with a question. Who do you say I am? Who are you? Those type things. What is it that you want? What do you want from me? He would say. So he certainly encouraged curiosity, didn't he? He would often challenge people. Who do you say I am? No, I'm going to take that back for a moment. Okay. So leading from this into all these different fields of medical science, exploration, whatever the field is. Then we move into theology and we think of Martin Luther, who back in the year probably 1545 or so, I'm not certain exactly which year, he was a German monk, a priest, and he was so fed up with the way that the church presented itself, the things they expected of people, how they would take money and say that you'd been absolved of your sins. All of these different things, they would let people buy indulgences as if that got them into heaven. He saw all these things and he knew they weren't right. So he had a list of 95 things, and he took it and nailed it to a church door, knowing that he probably would not live to tell much about this. He did live for a while. But you think about such brave people, but what was it in the first place that enabled him to come up with those 95 treatises? It was curiosity, wasn't it? It was his curiosity saying, you know what, this just doesn't work for me. There's something wrong here. I don't think this is what was intended with the life that Jesus lived. He didn't intend any of this from what this institution has become. And that's what that divine curiosity has done for so many. And then it led me into the thoughts of, New Thought and Transcendentalism and Emerson, Thoreau, all of those people from the late 1800s, and how they wanted to change. They wanted to change not only their own thoughts, but they wanted to change the world. They were innately curious about how the world could change. They were curious about what was right, curious about how can I experience God? And that may be one of the biggest questions each and every one of us has. How can I experience God? Then I was thinking too about a woman named Byron Katie, and at one point, some of these people I'm mentioning today, maybe they'll be as well known too as Thoreau and Emerson, we don't know. But Byron Katie is pretty well known today. And her history was that she had been depressed most of her life. She'd had a challenging youth, and then got married young, had 3 children, was on her second marriage, and could not find a way to stay happy. There were things that happened, but most of it was mental for her. She had mental challenges. She could not find out how to stay out of depression. Depression was huge for her. And so she'd tried everything. She'd tried every therapist that she could find. She was finally allowed to go into a halfway house for women, and she'd been there for 2 months. She was so belligerent and hard to be with, and this is hard to understand when you see her now. She is one of the most beautiful, graceful women you have ever seen. And you just cannot believe she was that out of control. But she was just angry with the world, and no one wanted to be around her. So even at the halfway house, she had to stay in the attic most of the time because she was very difficult. She said she woke up one morning and there was a roach crawling across her foot. And she woke up with this curiosity about her thoughts. And she thought to herself, who would I be? What would my life be like if I didn't have that thought? It just came to her with her curiosity was, is it the thought that's keeping me limited here? Is it the thought that's keeping me chained to this depression and this pain? And so she just continued, and they say, really, that she's a person that had an epiphany in a day, totally changed. Just by that, challenging her thoughts. Why am I thinking this? Why am I thinking I'm a victim? Why am I blaming people? Why do I think this is someone else's fault? You know those ugly 3 cousins? Blame, shame, and guilt. Anybody know about them? that try to hang around with you, try to make themselves part of your family, and unfortunately, they probably are, or your early life. But she had all of them. But she finally started challenging those thoughts. I said, well, what if that's not true? What if there's no one to blame for my pain and agony? What if there's no shame in the life I've lived? What if I shouldn't feel guilty about this? What if there's a life out there for me beyond this? What if? Curiosity's a wonderful thing. You know, it's kept people in cages, it's kept them in caves. You remember I've told you about the man after the war, 27 years after World War II was over. He'd been hiding in a cave in Guam all those years. Finally, some fishermen found him. He was skin and bones. He was not curious enough to come out and see that there was life after the war. Can you imagine? I can't imagine having zero curiosity. You know, even if you get put away or you're in a prisoner's camp or whatever, it's better than that cave, isn't it? But fear is one of the things that holds people back, holds them back from being curious. So let's release the fear and as Byron Katie did, start to challenge those thoughts that are holding you back and be curious about life. Who would I be without that fearful thought? Who would I be? Who would I be? And then it led me to remember a favorite book of mine by Robin Norwood. And she has 3 questions, and she wrote a book by that name. Why me? Why this? Why now? She was 42 years old. She thought she'd done all the self-improvement she could. She'd been on this spiritual path for a long time, and she thought she was really into self-awareness. And all of a sudden, her life just skidded to a stop. Her marriage ended. Her job ended. So many things happened, she just could not hardly believe it, but it put her into a deep depression too. And she slugged her way through it. But one of the things that came out of it was she needed to ask herself this question out of curiosity. How did I get here? Was her main curiosity. Thought I had a pretty good life. How did I get here? A lot of us ask ourselves this question too at midlife when we've got our kids raised, we've done all this good stuff, we've had good jobs, we've got savings, and then we find ourselves in the situation for being responsible for our elders' care. And all of a sudden, we're asking that same question too. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, I thought I had all this figured out. Why me? Why this? Why now? Those are some good questions because we don't know how to navigate that. We thought taking care of our kids was difficult. You just hold on till you start guiding your parent or parents or elders. It's a new experience. My kids have that to look forward to, and good luck. Good luck is all I can tell you. So my husband will be the difficult one. I'll be the easy one. So when we ask ourselves, when we're truly curious about our personal lives and we start asking some of these questions, we might say, why me? Okay. Why not me? Okay. And that's what will bring us, if we're truly curious, it'll bring us back to the point where we'll say, okay. Why me? Because I have something else to learn. And the sooner I recognize that, the easier this is going to go. And the more stubborn I am, the harder it's going to be. Okay? So let's get that over to begin with, because I'm learning from this. I'm going to learn something from this. What strength or wisdom is being called forth? What part of my soul that came here to learn and experience what's being awakened in me? Why this particular experience? Well, what lesson or healing is hidden in this? Be curious about it. What belief is being challenged? What truth is being asked to be seen? This moment is not random. You don't need to blame anybody for it. This is for your higher good. And this moment is rich with revelation. Why now? Because this is the perfect time. This is the perfect place. What am I ready to release? What cycle is completing? Is there a synchronicity that's unfolding for me right now? I would ask you to be curious this week. What challenge are you going through? Use your curiosity about it. Maybe it's a medical challenge. Maybe it's a personal relationship challenge. Maybe with your job. Maybe with economics. Whatever it is. Maybe you're wanting to go into a totally new field and you don't even know what it is. Something's there. Be curious. Be bold. Pay attention. And move forward with your life. I thank you so much for being here today and sharing this journey with me now and always.